So
And
we are live. Yay! Okay, so tonight I am so stinking stoked because I'm being challenged, and I'm not kidding. I am being challenged by my friends. So thank you, Traci and Michelle. We're going to be talking about relationships. So it's uncomfortable for me because while I do a lot of this stuff behind the scenes and talking with people, and I live it, right? We all have relationships as far as romantic relationships or lack of romantic relationships, a longing for romantic relationships, whatever it may be. When I put out there, yeah, let's talk about relationships, I really believe they were going to be like, no, we're not going to do that. And then I would be able to clear my name for my contribution for ideals this week. That's legit how that went down. They did not know that until just now. I am super booked with clients right now and I'm running behind. And so like when I was contributing my 2 cents of what we should talk about, and I was like, relationships. And they said, yes, I kind of freaked out. But in hindsight, it's really good. Everything happens for a reason. So I am being challenged tonight and I'm going to try to do it. Yay!
you can do it.
We're going to talk about romantic relationships tonight. And honestly, there's so many things to cover under that. You know, when I'm working with clients, I'm talking about everything from healthy ways that we can have, birth control as far as like spermicides and things that we can do and recommendations for that, to what a healthy relationship looks like in romantic relationships, what it's like to be single, when is it healthy to be single, when is it not healthy to be single. You know, we have people who go from one extreme to the other, that just, I'm going to do me and it's healthy, or I'm going to do me and it's not healthy. And how do you tell the difference between all these things? So we're going to talk about all things romantic relationships tonight, which I'm not kidding. I'm going to be sweating. Traci's covering her face. I'm going to be sweating.
No, so never mind. We don't want to.
There's no never. And you know what's funny is, actually, we started talking before we got on, right? Which is one of the habits we do. One of the reasons we created this podcast is because we love talking about all things health. And when we said this podcast is all things health, we meant it. Emotional, physical, spiritual, all things health. And so we enjoy talking about it all the time. The thing is, we press record and we become super professional and we're like, hello, tonight we're going to be talking about epigenetics and PubMed studies. I gravitate towards that. Traci and Michelle, not so much. They're super like open and on point and friendly. And so they're putting me in this wonderful space that I need to be in, where you guys get to see the side of me that they see as my friends. So I'm hoping this will be fun and encouraging and intimate, and a really wonderful resource for you to ask hard questions and get truthful answers with sincerity. So thank you guys for joining. One of the things I wanted to say that we actually started saying before we pressed record, because we have a habit of just like rolling and going through conversation, because girlfriends do, is when talking about relationships, one of the things that I find doesn't resonate with me, I would almost say it's kind of annoying, is the way that psychology looks at it. You know, years ago, in studying psychology, among many of the things I've studied, you know, you're looking at how we identify and diagnose, so to speak, through the psychology field, what they're looking at of a relationship. You know, is it codependent? Is it whatever? I don't enjoy looking at relationships that way. And so I personally don't do that. I don't know about Traci and Michelle, but I don't. And the reason why is because I truly believe none of us are just the one thing. We are all always living our belief systems that are inherited or in our lifetime. And so we're always those complex people and beings. And I don't believe anybody just is in a codependent relationship. I believe there's so many factors of things where we all are trying to do our best or struggling because of belief systems that we're stuck in, if that makes sense. And that being said, that's my 2 cents I want to get out there. I'm not going to be like, that's a codependent relationship, or that's a narcissist. I don't even like that, because, you know, I think we've all been in a relationship with someone who's a narcissist, whether it was a parent-child relationship or a friendship relationship or a romantic relationship. We are. But at the same time, the way I see it, at the root of it, our reptilian brain, which is our survival brain, is narcissistic. We've all been narcissists too, right? I mean, part of the reason we leave that relationship to some extent is going, I need something different. I am not going to continue in this. And that's true. And so I would say, for me personally, I don't look at it as who's the bad guy, who's the good guy. Is this a bad relationship? Is this a good relationship? I look at it as, what is the healthier and unhealthier things? I mean, what is healthy and unhealthy in this for each person?
Right.
If that makes sense.
I think that's a really good way to look at it. What it really reminds me of is, we have bits and pieces from different things, maybe inherited, maybe things we've gone through, whatever it is. And one of the things that really made me think of is like the Enneagram or personality types. And with a lot of those things, you can find what you are, and then there's a healthy side and an unhealthy side. So
that's a good point.
Whatever it is, whatever you're expressing and whatever your partner is expressing, there can be a healthy and unhealthy side to it. So just because you're experiencing something in the moment doesn't mean that you have to label it that and expect it to always be that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, it's kind of like, I've actually worked with somebody a few years ago where they had this idea of twin flames, right? And they're like, that person is my twin flame. And I met them and we just hit it off right away. What ended up happening in reality with that relationship was they both had the same trauma. So they attracted each other, law of attraction. And then it didn't turn out to last very long because they both had the same trauma and neither of them wanted to work on it. And so they went from, this is my twin flame and according to my astrological sign, and this is amazing. And that I think that's another example of that. When you're looking at your astrological sign or even your trauma, I am not my trauma. I'm not what happened to me. I'm not my astrological sign. And yeah, are there some truths to that? Yeah, there are some things to that where I have a propensity to behave in certain ways, right? But even with your astrological sign, so I'm Aries, right? So I'm super, that's why I'm like a bull and the conversations and stuff. I'm Aries and I can do that. I'd be like, it's not my fault. It's just because I'm Aries. Or I could be like, yeah, Aries can be kind of a jerk. I need to be mindful of that and pull back and not scapegoat it to my astrological sign, but go, okay, there's good and bad to being an Aries, The good is I'm able to be put in front of a million people and talk. I am. I'll probably hide behind PubMed studies, but I'm able to be put in front of a million people and talk. The bad thing is I have a tendency when I'm nervous to not shut up and I become a bully. Right? I power through. I'm like, I'm going to take this by the reins, it's what I do. But I am not that. I am not Aries. I have Aries tendencies because that's my zodiac sign, right? I also have a moon sign and a rising moon. I mean, we do that all day. I have a bunch of signs, Rochelle and I have talked about that. Like, you're not just your sun sign people. You're also your moon sign and whatever else. So we're complex creatures. And the Enneagram, I think, is a great example of that. And I think another example of that in relationships is yin yang. So yang is, anybody not familiar with it, yin and yang is just proven. Everything has poles, like a north, a south, and electrons, protons. Everything has poles, and that's what yin and yang is. It's actually not flat. Yin and yang is actually a toroidal field, and what you see of the holes is the flow as it's flowing in and through and in and through and in and through, kind of like the oscillation of a battery's energy. And Chinese medicine has been around for thousands of years and hasn't been disproven, but one of the core things of it is yin and yang. And we all are to be both yin and yang. And what does that mean? Well, yang is outward expression. If you look at the male anatomy, and I know people are probably going to be super pissed off with this, but yeah, there are females and males. If you're upset about that, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not here to say one way or the other.
Well,
I can talk to what I know. Okay. So when we're looking at, what did you say, Traci? Traci's like, and Jennifer.
I'm telling myself to zip it because.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Because normally it's me that I need to shut up, so that's cool. That's good. But yeah,
there's no email. You like it, people? I don't know what to tell you.
There are. Okay, yeah, and if you got other things going on, you got other things going on. I'm not going to deny it. I'm not going to say one way or the other. That's your thing. We all have our things, but there's male and female. Let's start with something we can all agree on. Yes, we know that's true. Great, awesome. So from there, yang is the creation of putting things in order. It's the energy that goes out. it's the positive. It's going out, it's force, and it is creating order from what could be disordered. And then yin is very reflective. It's in. Yin is in. It's very feminine. It's technically the feminine energy, and yang is technically the male energy. So yin is very in. It's reflective. It's considered chaos, but not because of chaos like bad. It's chaos like the ocean's tides. You know, they come and there's ebb and there's flow. And yin as in when you're like sitting in the shower and you're like rehashing those conversations where you're like, I should have said this, and then they were like that, and I should have been like this. Whether it's a negative or a positive conversation, you could have been excited and be like, man, I wish I would have told her I loved her dress, which, by the way, Rachel just said shout out about my dress. It's absolutely gorgeous on me. By the way, this is from Rachel.
Oh,
so thank you for the dress, Rachel. I love you. She makes me look pretty because I don't go shopping. So except for like a crap ton of food, but clothes shopping isn't something I do, and she has amazing style. But yeah, so yang is very male energy, creating order, and yin is very female energy. The thing is, we're all supposed to be both of that, and not both energy as in we're not sure what we are. Both energy as in there are times where I, in a conversation with my romantic person, husband, boyfriend, love, whatever it may be, am supposed to say, this is structure. This is what I want. This is what I need. This is what's healthy for me. And then there are times where I'm supposed to give way and go, okay, well, what is it that you would like? What is it that you would want? Where can I meet you where you're at? And that yin and yang, that positive, negative, is supposed to be something we all have. So whether it's Enneagram, whether it's your astrological sign, whether, no matter what it is, there's supposed to be both sides of that duality. And so that was a long talk about that, but yeah, sure. I hope that helps. I'll be quiet now.
Yeah, so these two want to talk about romantic relationships.
I meant it like I was trying to get my name, like my contribution, romantic relationships. Great, checked it off. I didn't know y'all were going to say yes.
No, you did not say romantic relationships. You said healthy relationships. And Traci was like, yeah, cool. And I was like, yeah, cool. And then we started talking, and Jennifer says, you know, I mean specifically romantic relationships. I was like, no, I didn't realize you meant romantic relationships. But hey, that's okay.
Like, oh yeah, no, I don't know about that.
But the funny thing was, I was thinking, well, when you said relationships, I literally just had a conversation with my 7-year-old about it, and it really wasn't about romantic relationships, but maybe in a way she was asking me, Mom, what is a relationship? And I don't really even know where that question came from. But then I was like, well, there's all types of relationships. We have a mother-daughter relationship. You and Daddy have a father-daughter relationship. You have friendships, you know? So anyway.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful that you brought that up, though, because when we're looking at romantic relationships, we are constantly working out in our brain, attracting what is healing to us. And that's good and bad. You know, there are people who are, you know, I like I said, I work with a lot of people on romantic relationship kind of things. And they're like, I attract a narcissist. Okay, let's look at what you had in your childhood with your mom and your dad, not just one or the other. You know, it's not, you know, Carl Jung was like the Oedipus theory. You know, you marry your mother if you're a boy, and you marry your father if you're a girl. And that's not really true. What happens is, in our reptilian brain as children, whoever is in that environment, whose food, clothing, shelter, our root chakra, root-based needs for survival, that interaction is how we play out and what we seek in romantic relationships when we get older. It is. Because that's that person, that's our root needs, the core needs. Our romantic relationship is the person who we have that most intimacy with, you know? We let them into places that we don't let other people, really. And so it is important to connect the dots of what type of relationships are what, and also looking at where these belief systems began. One of the questions we got, I think it was last time on this podcast, or no, you know what? It was I think it was a Facebook Live I did the other day. Somebody asked, if I work on my emotional health, will I stop attracting narcissists? Yes. Because if you're attracting the same kind of person, there's a reason you are the variable attracting the same kind of person. I don't know how to say that nicer to you. And honestly, I would say don't even take it as a negative. Take it as a positive, because you have the power. You're already attracting something. If you're attracting something crappy, that means you have the power to flip the switch and attract something healthy. Right?
And you learn to recognize more the signs of a narcissist.
What'd you say?
You learn to recognize when you are becoming healthier, you learn to recognize the signs. You learn to recognize a narcissist, and you learn your boundaries, that you don't want that. You don't, whether it's, a partner, a romantic relationship, or a friendship, or somebody, a coworker, or you learn to recognize those things so that you are not as
you're not attracting it. You're not allowing it. You're not making
right.
space for it. And I love that you brought that up, Traci, because that's really true too, is if you're attracting narcissistic romantic relationships, you're attracting narcissistic type of friendships. Like whatever you're doing on one level, that's what law of attraction is. And I explained this in a couple of Facebook videos. Law of attraction is not the crap you see on Instagram. That's like, are you attracting your lover? Here, take our course and you'll figure out how. That doesn't work, people. It doesn't work that way. We're always running a frequency. We're always attracting something. So manifestation isn't something you can or can't do. It's something you are always doing. We can't not manifest. As a Christian, we were made in the image of God. That's part of what we're doing. We are co-creators, always co-creating, always manifesting. So with that being said, and the Bible even says the power of life and death is in the tongue, right? With that being said, the more that we heal ourselves, the more that we are aligned ourselves, the more that we are attracting what is a reflection of what we're becoming and what we are. Also, law of attraction actually works in a different way than what a lot of people think. You are always attracting what you are. And I think we went over this last time. And you're always attracting what you're not. You attract what you are because you look at it and you're like, wow, that's amazing. I love that. And the learning portion of that is you eventually go, wow, that's really annoying. And I see that I do that too. So it's growing for you. And that's why we attract what we are, because we're always growing. Okay. The thing happens on the opposite though, and the opposite end too, where you attract the opposite, where you go, that is so amazing. They do things I don't do, and they have skills I don't have. And then eventually, when it comes to the growing part, you go, that is so annoying. They do it a way I don't do it. They do it in a way I wouldn't do it. And then you have to grow and shift and change. And that's really how the law of attraction works. We're always attracting what we are and what we're not. And so then the question comes, well, how to attract what you want? And that's where I would say the paradigm shift changes from it being what I want to looking at what is healthy and giving that up. Like a renewing of your mind, giving way and giving it up, instead of going, I want it to be at this. Instead saying, I know this is where I'm struggling, and I'm surrendering this to God, and I'm accepting whoever comes into my life to help shift this and change this in gratitude. And the more that your mindset changes to a surrendering of what's stuck, something that Michelle and Traci beautifully encouraged me in, and just surrendering that, and those things that need to shift and change to God, just surrendering that and accepting whatever good comes in to help you shift and change, then it goes from it being a checklist of things that it has to be. It has to look like this. It needs to be a this. I need a person who's a that, to you're always growing into your best self and attracting the best matches, friendships, relationships, whatever it is for you in your life.
Yeah, what that made me think about is the ancient Hawaiian philosophy of Ho'oponopono.
Oh no. I always butcher it. So Michelle taught me this years ago, and I used it with clients. No, not years ago. She taught me this, I don't know, months ago, and I've used it with clients since then. It's super powerful. It's amazing, and I'm so glad you brought it up. But when she taught it to me, I kept trying to work through it privately with her, and I'm like, Ho'oponopono. I would just like purposely butcher it because I couldn't get it right. So yeah. So now when Michelle says it, I'm like Ho'oponopono.
So Ho'oponopono is really powerful, and in a nutshell, it's really basically taking responsibility for whatever is going on in your life, even if it's just some random person showed up that you don't even know and some crazy thing happened in front of you. And you're basically saying 4 things. You're saying, I love you to God. You're talking to God. I love you. I apologize. Please forgive me. Thank you.
Say that again slower. Say it again one more time slower.
I love you.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize. Please forgive me. Thank you.
Mm.
And it's so powerful. It might sound funny to someone who's never heard it, but try it and see what happens.
It still makes me yawn, even just saying it. I know. Just you saying it makes me shift. That's crazy. Hey, Lindsay, she's in northern Michigan. It's cold there. I need to not complain about how cold it is Virginia when Lindsay's in northern Michigan.
I know. And have you seen what's going on in Texas? I'm praying for all of those people going through that without any electricity and
But the
water.
other day I was with you in Florida, and so my discontented heart misses it being me being in shorts with you guys playing disc golf. So yeah, the stuff going on in Texas, it's crazy. It's actually I need to stop there because then I'm going to go off on tangents and political stuff, and so I'm going to go back to Ho'oponopono. So back to Ho'oponopono. Yeah, it's very powerful. I work with clients with it, and so. In application, just to help each of you, so you have this tool that Michelle has brought to the table for you guys to use yourself. Let's say like you're working through something and you're trying to become healthier, and you're looking at, okay, you know what, this unhealthy relationship I'm attracting reminds me of something with my childhood, with my dad or my mom or this boyfriend or this girlfriend, whatever it is, that you're no longer tied to, or maybe you are, and you're trying to release those unhealthy neural pathways, those unhealthy ties. Those neural pathways are what keep us attracting the same type of unhealthy relationship. Because I don't know if you guys realize this, your body doesn't care if you're getting a quick neurotransmitter and neuromodulator hit from things that are negative and super negative. I'm super angry, I'm super hurt, I'm super afraid. Or if it's from, I'm super in love and this feels like ecstasy and amazing and nurturing. It doesn't care what high hit it is. Whatever you get a high hit from, your brain goes, whoop. All right, let's do it. Let's keep it. That was cool. That's kind of in layman's terms what your brain does. So when you're getting these high hits from things that are unhealthy, until you reset your brain's going to keep going to whoever gives you high hits from what's unhealthy. That's what happens. So that's one of the reasons why Ho'oponopono is so powerful. Because when I use it with clients, what I do, I actually do this and also cancel, clear, delete. I use that as well. But what I do is I have them sit in and imagine that relationship and that time and that space with that person. And at that point, they're able to say the 4 things. And so they're able to say, I love you. Sorry, hold on. I've got a message. I love you. And please forgive me. And what was it again? Because I have it written down.
I apologize and thank you.
I apologize. Please forgive me and thank you. So when they do that, the part where everybody gets stuck is the I apologize. So how do you apologize and ask forgiveness for someone who was really crappy to you? Like, you know it wasn't healthy. It was not a healthy relationship. It left you with all the high hits of like fear, disgust, loathing, whatever, right? How do you apologize and ask forgiveness of that person? The reality is, if we don't walk through this, there's a tie there, because you're going to hold, and this is how your brain works. Your brain is going to hold those pathways going, yeah, but I'm angry. That was a high hit. I'm bitter. That was a high hit. I am scared. That was a high hit. And it's not going to let go of that relationship. No matter how much you walk away, you're still going to be attracting that frequency of that kind of relationship. So how do you cut those ties? How do you have your brain go, all right, I have asked forgiveness and it's cut? Well, it's knowing that you're asking forgiveness of that person because what you expected them to be is not what they were able to be. What you needed from them is not what their journey was. And letting go of the why. Because what you see in a lot of therapy and stuff like that is well, why did you feel that way? Well, why did they feel like that? Well, why do you think they felt like that? Well, where do you think? Let go of it. Just let go of the needing to know why. Your brain actually doesn't need to know why. It's just chasing that high hit. That's all it's doing. So when you're able to sit in that, and we'll say, let's make up an example. 12-year-old you was with a 12-year-old person and you guys were dating and then he cheated on you and it hurt your heart. So you're forever with someone and always looking over your shoulder, asking for reassurance, wondering if they're going to cheat on you, wondering what's going on, wondering if you're enough because of that one moment in time. Your brain is stuck in that high hit of it was hurtful, it was painful, it was scary. Go back to that moment and sitting in that and going, please forgive me for putting on you what wasn't your journey. It wasn't their journey. It doesn't matter why it wasn't their journey. It wasn't their journey right then. If it was their journey to do it differently, they would have. Does that make sense? Please forgive me for expecting you to be what I needed. They weren't what you needed. That's a true thing. If they were what you needed, you'd still be together, right? Or it would have worked out differently. And Rachel just asked, can this happen with yourself? Yes. And I've actually walked people through this with themselves as well, even though I still forget how to say this stinking thing. Because I don't assign it to hope. Oh no. I just like, all right, we're going to go back to when you were 12 and we're going to apologize to yourself. So, yeah, I actually just walked 2 people through this today with younger them. They had to break those ties and walking through those 4 steps that Michelle described with their person. One was with a parent and one was with their first boyfriend. And they also had to do it with himself. One of the individuals right soon after, and this is like within 2 years of her hitting puberty, all of her belief systems about her sexual energy shifted. And it shifted to this dark place of self-loathing and feeling dirty because of the belief system she was brought up in the Christian community. And so here she was given this beautiful gift by God of really powerful sexual energy. And she ended up feeling dirty and ashamed because she didn't know where to put it. And there wasn't guidance for her. There weren't tools for her. So walking her back through that and saying for her to visualize herself saying, forgive me for not giving you tools of where to put this. Forgive me for not having safe places for you to put this. And thank you for existing, like walking through the whole thing. I love you. Thank you for forgiving me. Thank you for holding this story. That's one of the things I have them say. And now you are free to release it. And that's really powerful because when people walk through it, they really shift and their brain goes, I no longer have to hold this. Okay, you've got it now. All right. Like you are now in control of these belief systems where I'm safe and I'm good and this is good without me holding this and figuring it out and trying to puzzle it away. That's amazing. And it's really powerful. I mean, there's 2 main reasons our brain, 3, I'm gonna correct it. 3 main reasons our brain holds trauma the way it does. 1, it's to keep us from doing it again that same way, or to make us do it that way because it doesn't know a better way. When you're in elementary school and you have you see the thing where the mouse gets to the cheese, right? And it tries to find a way through the maze to the cheese. Well, when you get that high hit, whether it's high hit of the neurochemical interactions, whatever that high hit is fear, stress, anger, rage, self-loathing, guilt, shame, or it's really high hits of like love, ecstasy, purity, whatever it may be, your brain considers that cheese. It's a high hit. It doesn't really matter how you got there. It's a high hit, it's cheese. So your brain is always going to find and keep finding and keep repeating that neural pathway with relationship after relationship and after relationship until you let go of that neural pathway. Another reason your brain holds that neural pathway is because it says, okay, there's something here that I haven't figured out how to do it better. It's like a puzzle, you know? Imagine somebody sent a card to your house and they're like, from a secret someone. You would think about that crap more than you would think about your bills, more than you would think about anything. You'd be like, who is this secret someone? Was it you? Was it my husband? Was it my friend? Because it's a puzzle, right? That's why our brain gets songs stuck in our head. You know, you're ever sitting around, you're like, I know the tune. It's like, dun, 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 dun. What are the words? And you can't get it out of your head. And once you find the words to the tune, your brain goes, whoop, and then it's gone. That's because our brain is always trying to figure out puzzles. So here you have this thing where your brain's like, all right, I got the cheese and I got this high hit, but it felt like crap. So that's like part of a puzzle, but your brain's trying to figure out, where's this other part? Why am I still doing this? Why does it hurt? Where did I go wrong? So your brain's continuously seeking and re-seeking unhealthy patterns because of how our brain works. And going through and forgiving yourself, and those 4 steps, which I'm going to ask Michelle to say again, like you had said, Rachel, yes, doing that with yourself, doing that with those relationships. That's crucial because we don't have to know the why of why they did what they did. We don't even have to actually forgive the why. We don't even, it's honestly doesn't matter the why, but we can forgive them for not being what we needed at that time. We can forgive them for not being part of their journey, that we needed that, or that they were going to do that. And what are the 4 steps again, Michelle?
I love you. I apologize. Please forgive me. Thank you. And you can also use it in general without having anything in mind. You can say those things, and you can even break it down. If you don't remember the 4 things, you can say one thing. Say, I love you. I love you. I love you. Or thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. I love it so much. I really need to remember the name of it because it's really sad that I don't. I think my brain keeps purposely. Ho'oponopono.
Ho'oponopono.
Ho'oponopono. I need to like write it down. I think my brain is purposely trying to not keep it in that place because it's so fun to mess it up and make you laugh. I honestly think that's what that might be.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So there's a kid show on Netflix that is about Ho'oponopono. Have you seen it, Michelle?
I don't have Netflix anymore.
Well, it's on there, and it starts out and it's set in Hawaii, and the 2 kids start out arguing, and the mom is like, say it, say it, say it. And the one kid is like, oh, I love you because you ruined my skateboard. Like, I forgive you. Like, they go back and forth with this thing, and they're not even, they're just going through the motions and of what their mom wants them to do. And then it's a big storyline. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did catch that part of it, and it's right in the beginning.
Oh,
that's really cool. Yeah. Yeah, so then I guess in talking about romantic relationships, I think the next thing would be probably the question of what does a healthy relationship look like? And that can be really vast and big or really simple. And so I think in simplest terms, a healthy relationship is somebody who is walking alongside of you, whether it's a friend or romantic, but especially for romantic, just because that's what we're talking about, not because specifically for romantic, but it's somebody who's walking alongside of you and challenges you and is honest, but also gives you a safe space to grow. I see a lot of people say, I told them I needed them to do this, and they're just not shifting. They're not changing. And we all have probably been there with friends, with lovers, whatever. And the reality is, while we can tell somebody something, it's not, they don't have to change. And so what is it to love them in spite of it and give them a safe place to grow and also not be walked on, because we don't want unhealthy relationships where we're being walked on. And on the flip side of that, also telling them the things that you need in a relationship, not just for them to change, but that you need to be fueled. So it's somebody who walks alongside of you and you're able to be open and honest with each other about things that you see in that person that you want them to grow and shift and change, but also encouraging them in the times that, you see that growth, and also the things that you just enjoy about them. I see a lot of romantic relationships where they're not friends. I would say that too. They're just not friends. And so I feel like, this thing happens where we go through the excitement phase of, oh, it's so exciting and it's so new and da 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 da. And then we go through the settling in phase and, oh, they want to settle in and I want to settle in and it's so amazing. And then a few years down the road, it gets to this like thing where it's like the business partners phase. I think we all know it because we've all probably walked through it, where you're like talking about bills and wiping butts and kids, but like, that's it. And you're like business partners, but there's not friendship. There's not playing together. There's not, and honestly, what I see is it's almost like when you get to that point, you can see a distinct thing of how they're interacting with friends versus their love, their romantic partner. And with one, it's very, very business-like. And with the other, there's much more grace and laughter and friendship and room for those things that are welcoming, if that makes sense. And when that part happens and when that point happens, I often see one person wanting more welcoming with conversation, and one person saying, I'm not going to talk to them, or I don't feel welcome to talk to them because they told me I do this, this, and this. And then the other person saying, well, if they would just touch me more, if they would be physical more, if they would play more, then I would be more that. And so I also see this distinct thing happen where instead of both of them being that yin and yang, that male and female energy, that like going out and being physical and asserting and creating order, and also the yin energy, the female energy, the reflection and accepting and sitting in it. Instead of both of them being that, one becomes the yang and one becomes the yin. One becomes the person who gets all the stuff done or does all the things and wants this, and one becomes the super, okay, I just want to hang out and play. And then there's physical ramifications of that too. And what I think what happens is over time, every relationship kind of goes to that. And even with friendship, you can see with friendship too, where one friend over time is the one who's calling and texting and making things happen. And the other one's like, well, yeah, but I've got this going on and this going on and this going on. So I can't. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think there's seasons of it. It's like,
yeah.
It doesn't last that way forever, but when you're in different seasons of your life, or even for example, my husband and we would sit out every morning and have coffee together on the porch. But it got really cold out, and so we weren't doing that anymore. And then it became like, two separate people, one doing this, one doing that, and then there wasn't that communication together all the time anymore. So then, we had to bring that back and figure out, okay, so, everybody has a busy life. How are we going to communicate when we're not sitting on the porch having coffee for an hour in the morning and talking about things in life because it's too cold outside?
Yeah. I like that point too, though, the different seasons. Yeah. Yeah, there's seasons where you're working more and there's seasons where you're working less. There's seasons where you're really in the thick of it with like kids, and then there's seasons where it's very different and you don't, the kids aren't as much as like diapers every day and homemade baby food and all this stuff. But it might be different, that at that point there might be teenagers and all that and a different kind of challenge. And yeah, there's definitely different seasons. That's a good point.
The communication is so important because when you're not communicating and then you're really in the, here's the yin and here's the yang, and then here's the,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then that brings up another question. I have where relationships, and this is true. We all kind of in working with people and knowing people and having friends with people and stuff, where it's one person wants the communication and the other doesn't. One person is seeking the reconciliation and the other is just not. And I feel like that's probably the hardest one to speak to when I'm helping people, because one person is coming and saying, hey, I really want to be a healthier version of me, and in this romantic relationship, we both agree that this isn't ideal, but I'm here, I'm at the appointment, and this person's not. That's where I would say I wouldn't say that there's a challenge in relationships of any relationship that I've worked with where I'm not able to find the root issue, help them, see where their belief systems are, see where those neural pathways are, make logical sense of why they're each responding the way they are. Every appointment I've ever had, I can do that. The only time that I struggle is when one person shows up and the other doesn't. That's hard. I had that happen today. That's hard because then I'm left with essentially telling them, here are tools for yourself to encourage your heart. But I just like they can't make someone show up, I can't make someone show up, and even if you could, that's not healthy. And I mean, truly, it's not healthy to force someone to be in a relationship with you. In any way, nobody would ever be like, they just don't want to be my friend. They don't call me. They don't text me. Can you make sure they get in here and do that? That would be absurd, for real, right? I mean, that'd be absurd. And yet when we're in a romantic relationship, that's what happens. And I think it's because the dynamic of a romantic relationship is an intimate, sacred place that is a unity and is a bond that is much different than friendship. I mean, when your person isn't wanting to be there, it's like losing half of your flesh. What do you do with that? And I would say that's probably, I mean, here, you see me tear up for that because my heart aches for those people, it does, because as a practitioner, it's like, I can help you all day long. When both people show up, I can help you all day long. I can find the neural pathways of why each of you are behaving the way that you are, and not behaving, but why you guys are processing the way you are. And there usually isn't a right or a wrong. There usually is a brokenness or a belief system that leads to this behavior. And once we find that, they're able to go, oh, wow, that makes sense. You're doing this from this and I'm doing this from this. And then we end up at this, that's awesome. I love that. But when only one person shows up and the other person isn't there, my heart aches because there's not much I can do to shift or change that. And I would say my frustration is when that happens, especially in the Christian church, because in the Christian church, the women are told, just love him more, just be more, just do more. If you just pray for him more, if you just be Jesus to him. Well, Jesus is not a verb. It's not. And I understand that I might upset people by saying that, but you can't Jesus someone. Jesus is not a verb. It's a relationship. And if that person doesn't want a relationship to get stronger as far as that marriage, you can't make that person do that, no matter how much you love them, no matter how much you care for them. Same thing with parent-child relationships. I mean, how many of us know really great parents where the children, they just don't do anything with the parent. They don't show up for the things. They don't care, and the parent's like, if I just love him more, if I just give him more, if I just buy him this, if I just reach out to him that, if I just let him come back, live at home, it doesn't change. If that person doesn't want to be in the relationship, they just don't want to be in the relationship. And that's hard to be on the other side of that. That's super hard.
You don't have to tell me that. And the hardest thing to do is really change yourself, and is to recognize you can't change somebody else. You can only change yourself. And you think, and I don't mean like, oh, change the way you look or change the way you act, but just changing the belief system, like what you're saying, changing your thought pattern.
I seriously love talking to you women because, this was a point of contention or frustration in my brain personally. Like, I think that's why it came to my mind, and it came up today in session with someone. And, earlier in this conversation, in this podcast, I had said, when you're trying to get to the point of like, okay, what it is to actually manifest a good, healthy romantic relationship, it shouldn't be a to-do list. It can't be a to-do list. That's not how manifestation works. If you're looking at something with law of attraction manifestation that says you're going to do this to manifest the perfect that's BS. It's crap. It's not even how that stuff works. And what we really should focus on, and what really shifts and changes, is us focusing on surrendering whatever needs to shift and change to God, to the Lord, to just surrendering it. And then accepting whatever comes into your life that is shifting and changing with gratitude. And I said that, and this is very a podcast, and here I am a few minutes later going, I don't know what to tell them when they're in that. My heart aches for them. And yet you're answering it with what I said earlier, which is it's a shifting of the belief system that we are a victim by just being in our own thoughts and working on ourselves. And I think that's what needs to shift in my belief system, and probably many of our belief system, that if I have a client and they are the person where that other person doesn't want to show up in that romantic relationship, they don't want to show up and get things done, they don't want to show up and make changes, instead of looking at that person like, that sucks and I want to hug you and also like make everything better for you, instead of seeing it as a negative, seeing it and going, all right, this is space and time for whatever reason that you're given, where you get to surrender what you want this life to look like, and you get to accept what you have. And maybe that's having more friends in your life. Maybe that's having more time for friends. Maybe having more time for personal things that you wouldn't be having if you were bickering with this person or battling with this person. And then maybe that season will change. Maybe that person will come around. But instead of seeing it as a negative of, I'm just going to do me, or you just do you, or, well, just go work on yourself, because that's all you're left with. Seeing it as a beautiful thing that it is, which is, it's this time where you really are given, where that person who's your romantic relationship, or that person who's your child, isn't wanting to participate in that relationship. And you're given that same space and time, but you're able to do other things with it. And being in gratitude for that, I guess. And that's hard, because really that's a huge surrender of what we want our life to be. That is, like, I'm saying it and processing it. I'm an auditory processor. You girls know that. And so I'm like processing it out loud going, oh crap, like that's true. It resonates as true, but that's like super heavy,
What we think it should be, or what we think it should look like, or what we think others should perceive us to be, and what our relationship with whoever should look like. That was another thing that was really hard for me. Yeah, what others think.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until you said that, and I started crying. It's that. It's what it is in being in a marriage where you're the one who's showing up for every event by yourself. Or, you're a parent and you're showing up for them, but they're not there. Yeah. What do you do? How do you walk through that? How do you let go of that? Of letting go of not just the loneliness, but letting go of what it looks like to other people, as though you're failing as a parent or failing as that romantic partner. Yeah. Actually, this is why I don't want to talk about deep things, because then I cry. It's not actually the topic. Like, I can talk about sex and whatever all day, hormones, biochemical. It's this. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, to surrender that, to really surrender whatever it looks like from the outside, and to really be in gratitude for those moments and that space and that time. Because in reality, and I know this sounds harsh, but the reality is, let's say you had the best marriage. That person could die tomorrow, and you'd be without a person. You'd be on your own. right? So even the best marriage, you're not guaranteed a tomorrow. You're not guaranteed a time together. But what is it when the other person doesn't want to show up? And how do you let go of those feelings that you need to be more, you have to be more if you were more, and instead go, okay, it's not about being more. It's surrendering what I think this should have looked like and focusing on, with gratitude, what I am and what I have and where I'm at. And not lying and saying it's okay. You know, like I would never encourage any client to be like, yeah, just pretend it's fine. You know, just put on a smile. But what is it to genuinely and sincerity say, this hurts and I understand it, but there's a whole other portion of me that exists as well. And I want to nurture that portion of me and love that portion of me too. Yeah, that takes strength and resolve and a renewing of the mind. For sure. Everybody's quiet. I'm gonna drink water and be quiet too. It got heavy real fast.
It got pretty heavy.
It's true, but it's good. And look at you being vulnerable and finding all these things and finding yourself and crying. It's cleansing. It's so good. How do you feel now?
Like I cry enough for 15 people, man. Especially like in the line of work I do. Yeah. I had the weirdest thing come up today, by the way. For the first time ever, I was working on somebody, and they have parasites, and so we're talking about the parasite cleanse and, you know, like different approaches, because there's different kinds of parasites. There's internal parasites, there's intramuscular, intertissue parasites, and then external, like lice and mites and stuff. And she just has the typical internal parasites and stuff. And I was like, all right, you know, that's pretty easy to deal with. You know, it's something we all know how to do. And I was muscle testing for what would work on it. And I started ugly crying. And I was like, I have no idea why I'm ugly crying right now about parasites. And I was ugly crying because the parasites have the same law of attraction, the same frequency as her. They both felt underappreciated, underwelcomed, as those that have to stay and prove themselves. And so before we can even do the parasite cleanse, we had to like balance the frequency in her so that she's no longer attracting that and perpetuating it in parasites. What? I was like, oh my goodness. But yeah, I mean, in muscle testing for clients, I can feel their frequency. So I cry enough, man. I don't need to cry anymore. I cry enough for like 15 people every day, I swear.
It's okay, though. Accept it. It's part of you. You grow.
Yeah, that's true. Says the girl who's not
beautiful.
crying.
Hey, it's really funny because I really used to cry about everything, like all the time. And actually something happened to me today that I would normally have cried and I didn't, which was good because I think my crying was different than yours. But it was like, I don't know, I probably got rid of some belief system that I had where I couldn't speak in front of people. I mean, I was in one of my best friend's weddings. I could not say the toast because I just started crying. I literally didn't get it out because I was crying.
Wow.
And now I know I could stand up there and do it.
That's awesome, though. Yeah, that's really awesome. Yeah, I feel like when it comes to romantic relationships, I'm hoping we covered at least an introductory type of podcast to address things so that people, if you have any questions, please ask them below. And that way we can touch on it. And if there's, you know, enough questions, then maybe do a part 2 of this if people are interested. Romantic relationships can go in so many different areas, but tonight's podcast was hopefully just speaking to what does it look like to be in a healthy relationship. And I hope, if nothing else, you guys are left with the understanding that it isn't being a one extreme of saying, I want it this way, this is who I am, and they take it or leave it. Or the other extreme of, I'm just going to give them what they want, I'm going to meet their needs. If I just love them enough or meet them where they are, it's going to be great. But it's both people being both sides, both people knowing that they are made with a voice and to contribute for a reason and for a purpose. and contributing, and both people also saying, you know what, I want to meet you where you're at as well. What does that look like, and how can we go about doing that? And that balance between the two. If that's not happening, then I would highly encourage everybody to stop looking at things that say, I guess, diagnosis type of a thing of like, it's codependent, it's not codependent, it's this, is it, and instead look at the things that are your belief systems. Look at the things that you can shift. Look at the things that you can change, and begin at those points, because whether or not that person is there tomorrow, working on encouraging and nurturing and strengthening your neural pathways and your belief systems to be healthier allows you to not only be healthier for yourself, but it allows you to be healthier for whatever person you are with, and not just romantically, but for kids, for friends, for family. It allows you to be healthier as a whole and every level. I'm pausing for you guys to say whatever you want to.
I think this was awesome. It's romantic relationships, every relationship, we all have them. We communicate with people every day, and it's so important. I mean, Traci talked about communication a little bit, and yeah, I think that I remember saying, and you know, we did like marriage counseling with the church before we got married, and I remember saying, like, communication is key. It's so important to communicate, and saying it is one thing and doing it is another thing. So if you're finding yourself in a situation where you're not communicating, even though you know it's important, find the root of the issue and start communicating. You know, take that step to say, hey, let's talk, let's chat. Open up the conversation.
Yeah, that's a really good point right there too, is finding the root of it. And what did you say, Traci?
I said reflecting on your own behavior.
There was like a time glitch delay. Sorry.
Who's delaying?
Mm-hmm.
Me? Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, it is delaying. Yeah. And also, I like both your points. I like Traci's point of reflecting on your own behavior, and also Michelle's point of, you know, they were seeking that in that Christian community, seeking the counsel. I think that's an important thing to put out there as well, is if you find like you're at, you know, Traci works with this, Michelle works with this, I work with that, reach out to one of us so we can help you through these things and facilitate that conversation to find where those belief systems are at with each of you and where that impasse is, so you guys can understand better why you're choosing the routes you're choosing, why you're interacting the way you're interacting, and how to do so in a way that's more cohesive and healthier. And so we all offer that as well, and it's really powerful, beautiful work, because the work we offer allows us to facilitate that conversation between your conscious and your subconscious mind. 85% of what we're
Jennifer, you're breaking up.
And looking at relationship is something that you're cognizant of and purposely doing. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but it was delayed.
I feel like I hit a point and then it's like, loop. Oh, okay. You good now?
Kinda.
I think you're delayed.
All right. With that, I will say, post questions and comments below. If you guys want more in-depth podcasts about anything with romantic relationships, let us know.
Thanks for watching. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye.